us. Not me, I never go without one because it's chaos, but I know some people have got caught out. Right, grab your music, grab your piece of music, whichever one you're using. If you're still using the music, if you can put it down, and I suspect you can't, but then I'd be very pleased with you. So the actual section that this is timetable to look at is from bar 96, but just before 96 to get you into it is what we asked you to look at. So we're talking about the very last bit. So if you've been in Rhiannon's sessions or any of my performance sessions, we're talking a lot about who are you singing to, who are you including in it, because it definitely builds from the beginning to now. So you need to know, there's no right and wrong answer, but you need to know in your own head who you are singing to, or is somebody actually singing to you, and do you then join in with them? Are you reading it? I'm reading a letter at the beginning in my little head. Somebody's trying to lift me and I'm reading it, and then I join in, and then I try and include my friend, and then by this time I think it's quite anthemic, and I think you're taking in a lot more people. But knowing that in your head will make a difference to how you actually present it, because you're not going to belt it out if you're singing intimately to one person, yeah, and you're not going to be quiet and timid if you're actually trying to take in the full room or whatever it is that you're thinking in your head. So that's the first thing. You need to know who you are singing to, okay? And as I say, it can be anything. It can be a specific person. It can be just friendship in general. Somebody said the other day that for her it was about singing. It was about singing in general. It wasn't about anybody specific. It was just about the art of singing and the feeling that gives you, and that's what lifts her in difficult times. Some of you may want to go to an old memory. It just depends how dark it is for you. Try not to go anywhere too dark. You're still supposed to be enjoying it. Try not to go, you know what I mean? Try and, because the overall feeling of this to me is definitely uplifting and hopeful. It's not sad, is it? It you know, it's going back to 379-109 or Coral.
Sorry, it's Chris here. Sorry, my daughter just arrived. I have to leave you, Debbie, which is very sad because I've seen you for ages. But
well, we're recording it, you know, so just rub it in for those of us that can't have any visitors. That's absolutely fine. Enjoy.
Bye.
Bye. Bless her. Yeah, so the overriding thing about this song, are you stuck? Let me see if I can get rid of you.
I'm going to get you at hard.
I think I've got rid of her. Chucked her out. Bit harsh, but never mind. Yes, it's to me, it's about hope. It's about optimism. It isn't sad. It's emotional, but it isn't sad. There's a feeling at the end of anticipation. That very last note, it could have just put a chord, but there's that tremolo, and that creates a feeling of anticipation, and that there is something to look forward to. It ends on a note of uncertainty because you don't know what's coming, but in a positive way. Or that's how I'm reading it. As I say, you read it, make it work for you, but it's definitely a forward progression. So however you're singing it at the beginning to a small group of people has changed by now. So if you want to put some physicality to that and sit down at the beginning, and in the middle get yourselves a bit more, and for this section stand up, if that's what works for you, then by all means do it. Okay, I'm not going to keep standing up and sitting down because I have to keep messing with my camera, otherwise all you'll get is, you know, my breast, and nobody really wants that at any time of the day. But you can use that physical thing to give you that feeling, so that at the end it's got that real anthemic feel, and that you're taking in more people, and that you're now proud, and that you're sure somebody's going to lift you. The other thing to think about is, what are you, oh, here we go with the dogs. What are you thinking about when you're saying someone will lift you up and someone will come? Who are you thinking about? You don't need to tell anybody. It's not something that you need to share if you don't want to, but you do need to know in your heart who you're thinking about. Somebody, and I think they're on here, but so I'm not going to point them out, but somebody said they felt they were the one who wanted to do the lifting. They wanted to lift everybody up rather than being lifted themselves. So that's another way of looking at it. So is it a particular person? Are you thinking of a person that's lifted you up in the past, or that indeed is doing it now? Are you thinking of something like singing? Are you thinking of the collective? Are you thinking that I know it's helped a lot of people in dark times. Is it that you're thinking about? Is it a higher being? If you're of a religious persuasion, are you thinking that it's God that's lifting you? There's no wrong answer, but you've got to know. You've got to tap into who you believe it is. For me, it's the collective. For me, this is all about how, at the moment, this incredibly dark time has lifted me. And because I know Simon personally, it's Simon as much as the collective. I drove over there this morning and took him a present, you know. We socially distanced, but I cried all the way home. It was awful. Because I couldn't hug him, and you know, it was awful. I shan't do that again. It made me worse. Didn't make me happy. It made me very sad. But I've given him his present, so we're all right. But yeah, very tough. So for me, there's a personal element to the collective as well that's helped me through difficult times, because like all of you, my life stopped. Apart from going to work, that was all right. But everything else, it just stopped. And I couldn't see my friends, and my mum's in a nursing home up in Eckington, and I can't go and see her. She's got Alzheimer's. And I think to myself, when I go next time, she's not going to remember who I am, because she struggles she knows me. And so when I go there again, she's not going to know who I am. You know, my best friend's up the road. I can't see her. She can't come into Leicester. It's all really, really horrible. And I know it's the same for a lot of you. And I live on my own. That's the other thing. So, you know, some nights it's incredibly lonely. That's why, if you wonder why I'm on here all times of day and night, that's why. Whenever I'll do a session. That's why, because this is what's keeping me off the mental health ward that I work in. I'm pretty sure that's what it's doing. So for me, I haven't got to go very far to dig into the emotion, because it's my life at the moment. Yeah, I've had rubbish things happen to me in my life, you know, that I could tap into, but why bring all that up when this does the trick for me? So as I said, there is no right, there is no wrong, but there has to be a progression. And by this time in the song, you are definitely talking to more people than you were at the beginning. Yeah, so if you were talking to yourself at the beginning, by now you are talking to other people. Okay, that's the first thing. So the instructions we've had from Simon on it, because he's written the instructions. Oh, matching bottles. Yours looks bigger than mine. No, never mind. Talk about keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah, we've had instructions. So bar 96, when we sing the first two, You Are Not Alone, the instruction is quieter, but quiet, hushed excitement. So almost, if you were acting it, you'd be doing it in a stage whisper. You know, when they whisper like this, they're not really whispering, and it's got that intensity about it. You can't do that because you've got to put a pitch on it, but it's that feeling. It's that hushed excitement, and it's, you know, this is what's going to happen to us. This is what's going to happen. We're not on our own. The world is not as bad as it seems. The second two are a bit louder and a bit bigger, so you're building and building. If you were trying to direct this, you'd probably start the first one with 2 or 3 people, and then the second one you'd include more people, and it's building like that. So that's the feeling you've got to have, that it's building in intensity and in volume. So the second two are louder, but they're bigger as well. So stand a little bit prouder, put your shoulders a little bit, you know, a little bit further out, and lift your head a bit higher. And then the last two that before this strange one, it's so loud, well, not low, so intense and so big that it's almost brash. Don't forget, we're doing musical theatre, so it's got that feeling of being a little bit pushed more than we normally would. So almost brash. You're so excited and you're so into it that those two are almost brash. And then we get the one with the hard T in it. You are not alone. And at that point, we are at our biggest. Then we get the 3 bars rest, and the other people singing are pulling it right back down at that point. So you can come down on your 3 bars rest. And then on this, You Will Be Found, where we come in on the E, which is a little bit higher than you think it's going to be. Remember, this is the one that catches me out. The instruction from Simon is boom. And I think that just says it all. Here I am, have it. That sort of feeling. Yeah. Keeping a bit of vocal quality, obviously. Don't belt it out like you're going out of fashion. But it's definitely, here we are. This is the big statement, You Will Be Found. And that's, to me, that's the biggest part of the song, because it actually starts to wind down a little bit towards the end. So that, boom, is the big climax of the song. That's where we are at our most optimistic, most hopeful, and happiest. Okay? The You'll Reach Up and You Rise Again, still quite full, but then we take it down a little bit. If you only look around, you're now saying to you, you've done this big, look how fabulous it is, and you're saying, just look round, just look at everybody else. Everybody feels the same as you do. Everybody's going through the same things. So we're pulling it down a little bit. And then the very last, our very last, you will be found. It needs to feel like we're all singing the same thing. We're not, it's in harmony. We're not all singing the same thing, but it needs to feel like it's in unison, because it's got that solidarity about it and that feeling of camaraderie, if you like, which the collective is got that by the bucket load, hasn't it? So it's that sort of feeling, and then you need to keep that intensity. You can't just stop singing and then sit back for 5 bars like this, because that'll completely ruin it. You've got to be engaged in that, even though they can't hear you. You've got to be engaged in that last 5 bars, okay? The last bit of singing, those 2 lovely cello notes, and then that end one full of emotion and full of passion and full of everything else. So you need to feel it right to the end, basically, is what I'm saying. Okay, let's have a little sing through. I have, if I can remember how to get to it, got just part 3. So we'll go from part 3 rather than part 3B, because you need to lead into it. You can't suddenly leap in full of spirit. So it comes in just, someone will come running before you start. It comes in just before there. So let's see if it plays. It should do. Can you hear it? People hear that? It's called a tremolo, about how you know, you're not quite sure what it makes you feel, but it makes you feel it's not the end. It's definitely not the end. There's something more going to happen, which is the optimism and the well, the apprehension as well, I think, really, because we don't know what's going to happen. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left. I suggest we go out now and come back in, and we're going to try and do a little bit of trying to, I don't mean live, but try and sing to each other on the screen and see if you can get a bit of a connection going with people. So we're going to have a bit of a go of that. So if you'd like, I'll eliminate you now. I love that. I can get rid of you all. Come back in and we'll carry on. So I'm going to end it for everybody, and I'll see you all